Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I will be taking a look at Volume 1 of The Sickness from Uncivilized Books. This is another one that Tom sent over in the little care package of the new books that Uncivilized has put out. I don't know how the credits in here, who's doing art and what, but the creative team on this is Jenna, Lonnie Nadler, and Hassan Otsmain El Khou. I hope I'm pronouncing that even close to right. I will admit that when I got this, when I flipped through the book, when I looked at the cover, when I looked at the back, that it was a lot of like body horror stuff that just looked pretty gnarly. And I was like, I don't know. Tom sent me this book for free. Like I want to do a video about it. I'm worried I'm not gonna like it. Holy shit, was I wrong? I should trust Tom's taste better. This is an amazing, amazing book. I think this is one of the best comics I've read in a really, really long time, both in terms of art and then the writing in it's phenomenal. The theme that it's dealing with is super timely. So yeah, huge fan of this series. Thanks so much to Tom Kaczynski at Uncivilized for sending this in his care package. And I'll apologize right out the gate for being skeptical about this one, because this is an amazing work. So we start out with Daniel. Daniel's this character here. We're in, let's see, we jump times. We're in 1945 in Stillwater, Minnesota as we open the book. And Daniel's hanging out with his friends, and we get this right out the gate, just a kid like kind of making a face, but it already has this kind of horrific, like something's unsettling. And you could see the art. The art kind of has like a Michael Zulli from early Puma Blues type of thing going on with it. There's like lots of hatching, a lot of tones. It's a really richly detailed world, as you can see. Yeah, it's just a really phenomenal art all throughout. No shortcuts being taken anywhere. Then we skip to Lakewood, Colorado in 1955, and we're introduced to another character here. She's listening to a song that's saying, "Oh, Danny boy." So I think she's related to Dan in some way, but she's talking to someone named Beatrice. She's being interviewed by the cops, and what winds up being the case here is that I believe it's her sister is Beatrice, and she killed her family. You can see here that there's this big crime scene that the police are investigating. One of the people that gets wrapped into the investigation is this character named George. He's a doctor at the hospital that's caring for a kid that got hurt in this mess. And this guy he's looking for the psychological reason for what happened, because we have like a normal person who hadn't shown any real signs of mental distress, and then within a week started showing distress and kills their family. So you can see here he's like looking at syphilis, and that's what he's investigating. He's like trying to figure out, and then he starts finding connections between, and that's why we're doing the time jumps, connections between like these different cases where they all seem to follow the same path. Within a week or two, all of a sudden someone who's good goes bad, and he's trying to figure out why. But again, you can see the lushness of the art. There's almost like this one feels very Barry Windsor Smith to me. It looks, without the tone, it looks like something though from Monsters. So I mean, the names I'm throwing around, Zulli and Windsor Smith, that gives you a sense of how I feel about the art in this book. There's a lot of really cool experiments in here with diegetic documents. So that's where the character is like actually holding the document and reading it, and then we get to flip it. So it's not like Watchmen where they stick it at the end. It's actually something that's in the flow of the narrative. You can pan the camera in and then freeze frame the camera on the document. Really like that. So now we have George, and he's studying these accounts of schizophrenia and looking for the answer there. Like, are these schizophrenic breaks that these people are having, and why and how is that happening? As you start to understand that there is a psychological break, maybe a schizophrenic break happening, like now we've jumped back to Dan, and you get these scenes, and that's where the body horror and stuff comes in. into this, and there's such a good justification for it that no matter how grotesque it gets, it's hard to have a problem with it, because this is someone who's in a distressed mental state and the world is turning gnarly and body horror around them. Also, there's a lot you can see here, like he's looking at the mushroom cloud. There's a lot going on in here where this is obviously happening right after we drop the bomb. And so the characters are, you could see this, that's something that is like in the air, stressing the characters out. In this sequence here, the George character is talking to one of his partners in the medical field, one of the other doctors, his peers, and he's saying, George, women do just snap. Even so, I'll agree that this doesn't make sense. This is like the idea of hysteria that we really need to get rid of. It's something that me and Tori have been struggling with in her long COVID cases. At some point when they can't find what's wrong with you, they just say, well, you had a kind of messed up childhood, you're just making it up for attention or whatever. And we've seen Tori be dismissed over and over and over when there's plenty of physical symptoms going on, and diagnoses that have now been made that prove these guys wrong. There's just a whole lazy component of the medical industry that's still willing to write women, at least I haven't experienced it as a guy, off as hysterical. So that it's good that they're getting that critique in there. This book, I think, is really thorough in dealing with issues of sexism, racism, all of that. Like, obviously, George is represented as being a black doctor, so people are also dismissing him and not listening to him. As Dan's delusions continue to increase, the body horror stuff really kicks up, and you can see, I don't know who the artist on this or who's penciling, inking, they don't really put that out in the credits, but whoever's doing the art on this is doing an amazing job with this just most creepy imagery here where the head comes apart and falls back. So that's always driving the visual interest in the story, even though, like, this, I think this book's good, well enough drawn. Like an image like this, you don't really need the body horror stuff to drive visual interest. It's such an amazing drawing. But that keeps the reader engaged. I think this if this hasn't been optioned to be like an HBO or Netflix show, people are sleeping, because this is just so primed to speak to the public as it exists now with the worries we have now. And that is covered on this page, where George is going back and trying to, or not George, this is George. George is reflecting on what's potentially going on with these patients. And he's talking about the bomb and all of this stuff. But he says, sure, the paranoia of being followed could be some cultural phenomenon, but it could be a symptom of something nonetheless. Difficult to distinguish a psychological disorder from this country's pastime of parroting ideas. But I'm convinced this thing is more than just a spread of Americans in distress. But I like the idea that he's tying it to like the word, and then right here he's writing his own poetry. He's trying to be a poet, and he says, words that never were before, no need for a skyscraper staring down on automobiles, become so vast, see the gray above and the gray below. And he's talking about the idea that with the speed up of technological progress and so many new things, and you see like I think this is the Hindenburg here on the next one, and they're talking about the Chicago's World Fair. With the increase in speed of progress, technological progress, it puts a stress on the human psyche. And I think we're fully aware of that now, that with the information age, the digital age, we live in an environment where the majority of what we're expected to be interacting with isn't even visible anymore. It's all in the cloud. And so, of course, we're all on anxiety medications and stuff, where the world's gotten too big. There's too much information. The speed of change is too fast. Like, it's just stressful on the human animal. So that, I think, is one of the core themes that is being dealt with in this book, and is being dealt with so thoroughly and so wisely, attaching that to the bomb, attaching that to like the Chicago's World Fair, like the whole history of, like technology in America, tying that to mental distress and all this. And then it's just everything is so well written in here. Just over and over and over. I want to say that. There's this absolutely brutal scene here where these characters are talking. George is talking to his wife, and they're talking about, something day to day innocuous, something great, Charleston chews, like what kind of food they like. But in his head, he's just like, while he's trying to have a nice conversation with his wife, just over and over these images of these people that have been beaten that he's seen, and super, super brutal. It has the brutality of Barry Smith's monsters without the just vileness, and it's much better written. So it's that kind of intensity of a book, but I think the thematic justifications in this book are much stronger than in Monsters. A really awesome sequence here where we kind of have like this Vecna character from Stranger Things showing up. There's this face, there's this character that shows up that seems to be what causes the people to go crazy, and George is finding out that they all kind of see the same shadowy figure in this sequence. There's some really interesting stuff where like George is upside down because he's like looking over at a book, and then we're mixing in some of Dan's story here, and then we're getting these gnarly eyes and teeth. Really cool page. Looking at this image though, and with this idea of like, oh my God, if this doesn't ever become a TV series, like someone's really dropping the ball. I can't help but think that Giancarlo Esposito would be perfect for George. Just kind of his gravitas as an actor, and like you go look back through the book and you look at how the George character is drawn, there's just a visual similarity there. So that's my casting call right there. And then we've mostly been staying in 45 and 55, but towards the end of the book, setting up the next volume, I'm assuming we take a jump to Redondo Beach, California in 1965. So that's I am like super hooked. I think this is one of the best comics I've read and best series I've read in a long time, where I really want to see the next volume that comes out. And then they've had a bunch of really awesome guest artists doing covers throughout. This is a book that's being released issue by issue, and this is collected. It's not just being collected. It's not just being released straight to volumes. So the lot of cool guest artists that are doing covers. We have one here by Shintaro Kago. So a lot of artists that are in the horror genre already, and can really do a great job of this. And yeah, you can't get better than a gnarly Shintaro Kago piece. Troy Nixie did a cover. Troy Nixie is welcome to the family, man. A phenomenal artist who's going to be releasing some work with Living the Line pretty soon. Someone who I've been a fan of back in the day, working with Mike Mignola on some stuff at Dark Horse. And then really a fan of the commission work that he does on Instagram. Someone I always hoped Sean would get to work with, just because Troy does so much fine hatching work, and it's always, anytime I see that, I'm like, oh, I want him to be a Living the Line artist. So really excited that Troy is now part of the Living the Line family. But yeah, just a bunch of really lovely covers in here collected. This is as good as comics get, man. It's smart. It's, just so much love poured into the art. It's ridiculously well written. It's thematically timely, deeply human. A bunch of amazing contributors adding covers. Yeah, like if you haven't read The Sickness, go to Uncivilized Books and get yourself volume 1. Absolutely one of the best books. This would have been on my book of the year list, but I'm a fool and I wasn't reading it because I looked at the covers and said, oh, horror, it's not for me. But this book should be for everyone. This is absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much to the team that makes the book for making it. I really wish I knew more about who did what so I could praise them, but those are the credits there. Maybe in the actual issues it's put out a little bit more who did what, but thanks to the team for such a great book, and thanks to Tom Kaczynski at Uncivilized for sending this over. I'm sorry I wasn't following this, man. You have phenomenal taste.
Back to the land, let's get away, just for one day. children.